What is up, everybody? Welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers, and today we are doing a board game review of the game Rockin 1977. When you look at the board, it says it on the box, but you gotta glare it, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, if you don't do that, you just see a butt in your face. But I like the front cover. The artwork is nice. I'm going to go ahead and do a review of this game because Devir sent me a review copy, and I was super ecstatic to see that because there was a lot of people who didn't have a copy of this, and I also received cities. I know Dice Tower's already done their review of that, so I figured, hey, let me go ahead and try to get this one out there beforehand just so we can get a review of this game. Now, this game is going to be premiering at Gen Con, and the creator of the game is going to actually be there. And if you don't know who she is, she's actually an actual rock star, but also is like a genius. She's been on Jeopardy like 4 times. There's so much to know about her, which is all in the rule book, which I think is pretty cool, man, that they really established her as a game designer. But Rockin 1977, what is this game and how does it play? I'm going to go over an overview of the game, and then we're going to do a review. Just as a reminder, I always do like a 10-point review, just in case, because it's been a while since I've done a review, and I always give 2 points for each category, and I've got 5 categories that we'll be going over. But let's take a look at the game and how it works. During the game of Rockin 1977, everybody's going to get their own individual player board, which is an amplifier that the knobs go up to 11. Don't worry about that. Well, that's just because I'm showing it to you sideways. It's got your own little amplifier with your own player with its own unique player power. You've got your different stats with these actual twisting knobs that go up. And you're going to be tracking these 3 different stats, trying to increase them to become a rock star. You will work a job. Everybody's going to start the game with a job and a manager who's going to give you a 1-turn activation once per round. You start off with a manager, a job, some personal goals, and your goal is to try to just get the most fame. And that's the points that are tracked on the side. If you can get to 50 fame before December, because the game is split into 9 rounds, which are 9 months, if you can get to 50 points before December, you automatically win. But if it gets to December and you guys are all still going, then this will loop back around and you'll just continue to add up your score to see who wins at that point. The game is divided up into 3. Each round is divided up into 3 phases, which is your daytime phase, your nighttime phase, and your after hours phase. During the daytime, you're going to be working on those stats, trying to increase different stats, hiring crew and different things like that to prepare yourself for playing the shows in the nighttime phase. When you're in the nighttime phase, you'll be able to play the smaller shows at first, which give you increases to your fame, your reputation, which you also got to build up. But at the same time, if you get to the bigger shows, you'll get money and more fame points, and it's just really, really cool mechanic. You can even play a random gig, maybe a bar mitzvah or something like that you can play, which is pretty awesome. In the after hours phase, after your shows, you're going to go out and you're going to hang out with people. You could record a demo. You can go to the different hangout spots, which is like a little set collection thing you can do for the end of the game to score additional points. And all the while you're doing this, you're working on these personal goals. And there's also some objectives at the top that everybody can fulfill, which is cool because it's like a little race for who can get there first. But again, you're just doing these things. You go daytime, nighttime, after hours. Once everybody has passed, then the round ends, you do a little cleanup phase and start over with the next daytime phase. And the month changes to the next month, and that's how the game works. It's just really mechanically, it's not too complicated. It is worker placement, so you are taking, your little worker and going to one spot. You get per phase, per round, you're going to be able to take one action at all of these different places. And then, so during a particular round, you might only be able to do 3 actions. But there's a sugar rush mechanic where if you have a little candy, everybody starts with one. You can pop one of these candies and you get a card. And these cards will have bonus actions on them, which means that on a given turn, if you were to use a candy in every single phase, you could potentially work your way up to having 3 to 7 turns per round, maybe even more, depending how many candy you have. But we'll talk about that mechanic a little bit later. But that's a basic overview of how the game works. You're just trying to record demos and vinyls, increase your reputation, increase your chops, which is your vocals, and increase your reputation and your song list. So the more songs you get, the more you can play at some of these bigger arenas where you can do a full gig with all 8 songs or more. And that's pretty much it. That's an overview of the game. Now, let's talk about my score of the game. And again, I do this in 5 different categories. The first category we're going to talk about is the setup and the storage. So when it comes to games like this, I think one of the most important things is how easy it gets to the table. If you've ever played big games that take a long time to set up, sometimes that can really hinder how often you play it. It's like, I love this game, but man, I just don't feel like setting it up. This game is actually, I would say, very easy setup. It's not super hard. And I think the reason I'm saying that is because I just played Age of Innovation. And as I was setting that game up, I was like, there's so much stuff to set up in this game. And so like in that particular case, it would be a lower score. But over here, I'm at like a 1.5. It does take a little bit to set up. And the game didn't come with a bunch of baggies. At least my copy didn't come with a bunch of baggies to put everything. I had to put my own bags in there. And I organized everything pretty easily. But I think if you were to organize and put everybody's stuff, everything that they're going to need in a single baggie, and then you just give a baggie out to each person and give them their player tray. The game plays from 1 to 5 players or 2 to 5 players. And I believe that I don't know if there's a solo mode. I don't think there's a solo mode, but the game plays moderately easily. I think it's like a 90-minute game, and it could go up to, an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on your first plays. But once you get the hang of it, I think it'll go by a lot quicker. But anyways, so when it comes to setting up the game sets up really well. It's very easy. And storage, everything fits in the box. I know that, we've got like, White Castle, which over there in my shelf, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got that box lift, and this game doesn't do that. Everything fits in the box. It does jumble around a little bit depending how you put everything in there, but there's no storage solution in the box, but everything fits fine. It's not like the best storage solution I've ever received, but there is a lot of components. So I'd say that setup and storage wise, it's a 1.5. Sets up well, has a decent storage, but it's not anything to write home about. So maybe a 1.5, maybe even a 1, but I think that's nitpicking. The next thing we're going to talk about is the learn and the teach. So how easy is this game to learn and to teach? Learning the game was actually very simple. I learned it right before I went to Dice Tower East, and I learned it at home, and I actually brought it with me to Dice Tower to play with my friends because that was the only time I was going to get a chance to get some plays in and review it. And I got to play it at least 4 times over there, and it was really good. I've since played it again, and so the rulebook is really, really, really good. It's got a lot of cool stuff going on in here, and it has very good explanations, a lot of pictures and things like that. I think the rulebook is fantastic and gives you really good examples of how things work. So it's a really good rulebook, very easy to learn, and the teach is actually relatively simple. All you have to do is tell people, hey, look, you've got 9 rounds to increase your fame to 50 points. And in those 9 rounds, you're going to be doing worker placement. You get 1 action per phase. There's 3 phases in each round. And there's some like little nuanced things. And, you're going to have some personal objectives and some global objectives that everybody can do. Not to mention there's like an event that pops up and changes how things work in the game. And there's also some actions you can take whenever, so it's like, even if like all these action spots are taken, I've got spots on the top that we can do. So as far as learning how to play the game, it's very easy to learn and teach. So I'll give it 2 points for that. The next thing is gameplay and mechanics. I think it's a very simple Euro worker placement, which I think is really cool. I do feel like at times mechanically, I feel like there's parts of it that I'm like, man, I wish I could take more actions. Like I wish I got 2 actions per phase and the score would go up maybe a little higher and go around the board. But I think if I did, the game would just last too long. But yeah, it feels a bit limiting. But then I think the way they did that was like, hey, you only get 1 action per, phase, whether it's, daytime, nighttime, after hours, you only get 1 action. But you can, and they tempt you, and I think they did that on purpose. They try to tempt you so you could use your candy. Now, this candy mechanic is so interesting because this is obviously drug related, right? Like if you're thinking 1970s rock stars, they're, out there and they're doing stuff that they shouldn't. But I like that they changed it to candy because then it makes the game a little bit more accessible to other people. You're not worried about, I heard there's drugs in the game and this and that. Is that true? And it does have a mechanic that I think adults would look at this and go, that's what it is. But the cool part about it is that when you use a candy, you get this random card that may be 1 bonus action or it might be 2 bonus actions. But the way that it works is that it has repercussions. So every time that you take a candy, you have to increase your craving level by 1, and your craving level can go all the way up to 6. After you increase your craving level, and all of this is written, this isn't something that everybody has to remember. It's written on the card, so it tells you. I love that, by the way. You roll the dice, and if your dice roll meets the number or is more, then you don't suffer from low blood sugar, right? And so, but if you were to have rolled the dice and this thing would have increased, you probably would have to switch this over to the on position. So for example, if my craving was at a 3 and I rolled a 2, then I would have had low blood sugar. I would flip this to on, and then I would take my turn as normal. But at the end of my turn, at the end of the round, once we do our final phase and we're doing cleanup, I would have to go to recovery. And during the day phase, for my next turn, I won't get to take an action because I have to spend my time in recovery. Then I can move to the next phase and start doing my actions. So it does have a negative repercussion if you're not careful. But for the most part, I think that mechanic works really well. And I kind of really like the way that it works. And then you would flip this to off position and your low blood sugar is gone. You could voluntarily go here as an action. So if like my craving level's a 3 and I'm really afraid to do this, I'm going to decrease it and just go to recovery. That's basically how that works. There are actions here that all the actions have space for only one person. Unless it has an infinite symbol, then you can place multiple people there. There's worker spots that you can use that everybody can use on their turn. And then depending where you're at the end of the night phase, they have a mechanic that's like, if I put myself on this spot right here, like if I go backstage, it has a little guitar pick with a 12, which has to do with turn order that's tracked here. So the lower the turn order, the lower the number on turn order, the more likely you're going first, right? So if I had just gone to bed early, which is one of the actions, it has a guitar pick 1. That means I'm going first next round no matter what. So because I went to bed early. Or if I go to the 12, I hung out too late and then I'm going to go last, but you get 2 reputation points for going to the 12 guitar pick. And then wherever everybody else goes determines the turn order for the next round. You can play at shows and increase your stats. I love that the stat increases are tracked here on this little board. This little board is so well done and so well put together that I'm like, wow. Each player has their own unique player who has their own unique player power, and your manager provides a one tap thing. You can buy, like little crew that will help you play at the bigger venues, because if you go to a bigger venue, you need crewmates, and I think you need 3 of them in order to play the biggest venue. And so there's just a ton of really cool mechanics and things, and there is a lot going on in the game, but I think that once you get the hang of it, it's actually not too complicated, and it works out really, really well. I think the mechanics of this game are solid, and I love the reputation increases and the different stats that you increase, your royalty track, which is like once you get a record deal, it's like now that I've got a record deal, I get paid royalties in between every round. I'll get extra money from my album just bringing in money. And if I renegotiate my contract by going to the space again, I can increase my royalties to get not only money, but reputation to help me win the game. So it's really, really interesting. A lot of cool mechanics and a lot of great things. Even some shows that will like say, hey, you know what? You went to a show and you threw up everywhere, but you got a bunch of money, but your reputation went down. Stuff like that. I don't think that's one of the cards in the game, but I'm just making this up. But there's a lot of cool, interesting these little side gigs that you can do that have some interesting player powers. You have your job, which you can work. It has a specific time you have to work, and if you don't work that, you take a missed work token. And if you get 3 of these, you lose your job. But then when you lose your job on your board, it says you have become a professional musician. Congratulations. You graduate from having to work a normal job, a normal 9 to 5, right? So I think that's it from the game. Other than the set collection part, you start the game off with 2 little cards that have different symbols on them. And if you collect 4 of the same symbol or 4 different symbols, you get automatically 5 fame points, and you increase the track right then and there. So gathering those spending time at night, going to parties and things like that, you can gain more fame points that way. And I think that's it. As far as gameplay and mechanics go, it's super simple. I love the mechanics of it, but it's nothing new. You know what I mean? It's like a typical worker placement. I think the sugar rush thing is kind of cool. That mechanic alone makes this game feel a little bit different. It's got a lot of different mechanics going on, including set collection and the worker placement and rolling for the sugar rush and stuff like that. So it's a good combination of different mechanics. I'm glad they didn't add more mechanics. I think it has the right amount, but it does feel a bit much like to keep track of for some people. So not everybody will like that, but I do know that I really enjoyed it. And it was, when it came to Dice Tower East, this was just one of my favorite games, even though they didn't have the game there. I brought my own copy, but it's one of my favorite games that I played when I was at Dice Tower East. I love the experience. So gameplay mechanics, another 2, because I just think it's fantastic. Let's talk about components and the artwork and the theme here. If there's anything that I think is amazing about this game, it's definitely this category. This game is dripping with theme. I mean, everything from the boards going up to, when you're tracking your stats, your little amplifiers go up to 11. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, that's a reference to Spinal Tap, where they found an amplifier that gets cranked up to 11, right? And it's like, wow. So that little reference, that Spinal Tap reference, all these things go up to 11 is so cool. I love the thematic nature of like the different players with the different player powers. There's a lot that you can choose from. They even have flavor text on the back to get to know the characters. Some of the characters have abilities that come with like these little acrylic tiles that are, one-time use. Not to mention that your workers, I'm so glad they went this route. They didn't do like 3D printed miniatures that you have to like do, or like the little cardboard standees. They went with the acrylic standees, which are like screen printed. And so like no matter which way you look at them, you can see through it, kind of like in Vagrant Song. I think this is the future of standees. And they gave you, a ton, one for every single character in the game. And I'm like, wow, the production quality of this game alone, this could easily, and that's crazy because there's other games that I saw at the convention that were selling for like $90, and production quality wise, I'm like, this is better produced. And I think the price point, don't quote me on this, the price point's going to be somewhere probably around 50, 60, but they could easily charge $70 for this. And I'd be like, I get it. The board is really nice. The player trays, they're easy to assemble and put together. The money, oh my gosh, the money. Like, when you first take these things out, you could easily tell that you could say, this money's definitely not real. But honestly and truly, it's incredible how well they produce this money. Like, this is probably the best money, like fake money in a game I've ever seen, because it's so cool. Like, the details on the bills that they're number one, they're double-sided. And on the bill, you have like a coffee ring because somebody had put a cup of coffee on here. There's ink splatters. People wrote on some of them. There's bills that literally have a kiss mark with a phone number on them. Like, and these are, I'm talking about dollar bills. Look, they're different and they're printed differently and they have different things on them. This money is incredible. Like, production-wise, insane. Theme, the whole game is so thematic where, like the people were like just laughing and my friends are commenting, people that I played with, they're just kind of like, it's hilarious because there's not a daytime. There's no morning phase because rock stars don't get up in the morning. They start their day in the middle of the day. And then there's nighttime and after hours, the go to bed early. You get to go first, but you're a square. You know what I mean? Like, that's the crazy part of this game, is that there's so much theme in the game. If I could give this game 3 points for component quality, artwork, and I would definitely go above and beyond when it comes to the components of this game. And if anybody tells you otherwise, I don't know what they're talking about. If this game ends up retailing at $50, that's a steal. Like, literally a steal, because there's just so much going on in this game. And I love all the components for this game. I think this game is so well produced. This is by far the best 2 points. It's the best point of this game. The gameplay is great and fun. The component quality is fantastic. So last but not least, right after that, we're going to talk about replay value, fun factor. I had an absolute blast playing this game. Oh, and the other thing that I mentioned was that the board is reversible. So this is like the 2 to 3 player side, and the other side is the 4 and 5 player side, which has like more spots and more availability. I had a blast playing this game. I really did. I had so much fun that I was like, I want to run this game back. And that's the thing, at a convention, you have limited time. So I want to try to get as many new games as I can played possible. But I could not stop wanting to play this. Like, I kept saying to myself, like, I really want to play this game, But man, I would definitely love to play this game. I don't even have to play it. I can teach it to somebody and watch people play it, and I would just get enjoyment of seeing them with the references and the funny things and the things that happen. And it's like, you took too many drugs, right? Like people making those references. I even got to visit the booth at Devir, and the representatives there. I had told them that I had the copy of the game and I was reviewing it, and they were like, "That's so awesome." They were like, how much candy did you take? You know, and I'm like, oh, I did a lot of candy. You know what I mean? And oh, we had so many fun. And then like one of our friends didn't do any candy for like the whole game. And then at one point they popped a candy and we were like, no, you were doing so well. And like it's so much, bro. I had so many memories created that I was like, yo, this game is phenomenal. The like fun factor is through the roof. Replayability, there are different cards for like the events. There's different events, different gigs. These cards themselves, when you pick them up, they have different things where it'll say like, oh, this is what happened. Some girl, this one literally says, everyone else has hooked up early. Gain a song or go to bed early and end your turn. So like there's cool things in here. Some of them just give you fame points. Some of them give you reputation, depending which ones you go to. And there seems to even be a thematic nature inside of the decks of these cards. So there is some replayability in that. And also replayability in the fact that you can play as a different character and try the different player powers out. There are different jobs. So there's a lot of like things that give variety to the game. But I don't know that I would say they're replayability. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't say this deck makes the game replayable or these make the game replayable. I feel like we'll cycle through these things and at a certain point go, I've seen this. You know what I mean? And I wonder if the gameplay, which I love, is enough to keep me coming back to this game over and over and over again. And if there's enough variety in the game. Like I feel like there's enough variety, but I don't know that variety equals replayability. I think it helps with it, but I just wonder if there's there's no modules or mechanics you can add to the game to make it different or to make it more complicated. It's just variable. And so I don't know, man. I think that that's one little thing about the game that I wonder is that I have a blast playing this right now. Will I continue to have a blast with this next year or the year after that? That I'm not 100% sure of. But I do know that for now, I want to play this game a lot. I constantly find myself thinking about it, wanting to come back to it. Replayability for me right now is good. I wonder if it's going to peter out, because there's so many games that come out every year and so many Euros, because that's what this is. This is a Euro worker placement game. And I wonder if there's something that's going to top it. And then I'm just kind of forget about it and it just kind of sits on the shelf. And there's Devir by themselves already make a lot of great Euro games and worker placement games. I mean, it's not really worker placement, but I played Three Ring Circus. I played White Castle. Those games are really good. I don't know. I just really like Devir Games. Devir sponsor me. But for right now, I love this game and I'm willing to play it again and again. And I wonder if that'll probably wear out over time. But for the most part, I'm going to give this a 1.5 for replayability, fun factor, which puts the score at a 9 out of 10, which is huge for me. Like there's games that get 10 out of 10s. For me, I think that realistically, this is really like the highest rating game because I feel like my 10s are usually just completely subjective. You know what I mean? Like my 10s are just, this game is great. I don't care what anybody says. I love this game. It's perfect. It has a ton of flaws, but it's a 10 out of 10. This game is so close to being a 10 out of 10. It does have some minor issues. Like I said, I think some of the biggest things are really just kind of the setup and the box doesn't really have like an insert. You just kind of just chuck everything in there. But that's like every Devir game, so that doesn't surprise me. It'd be nice if they start doing some better ways for storage. But everything else in the game is great. You know what I mean? There's nothing about the game. I do feel like the replayability is going to go down over time. You do have different personal goals, and there's a lot of variety, but I don't know if variety equals replayability. But the game plays well, and I really like it, and I can't wait to play it again. That's why it's getting a 9 out of 10. That is a golden lunchbox game. So that means that this game is definitely one of the top tier games. If you go to Gen Con, get yourself a copy. You have to buy this game. It's very good. It's very good, especially if you like rock and roll and you love the 70s. You're just going to be taking a trip down memory lane with this game. It is fantastic. Not to mention that if you're at Gen Con, Jamie Foxx? Not Jamie. No, Jackie Fox. Sorry, I said Jamie Foxx. Jackie Fox is going to be there. I always mess up the names. Jackie Fox is going to be there. You might even be able to get a signed copy. I don't know if she's going to be doing signatures, but they are producing. They showed it to me at the Devir booth in Dice Tower. They said, hey, check this out. we're going to be doing a Jackie Fox player thing, and it comes with the acrylic standee, and it comes with the Jackie Fox player board. So you'll be able to play as the designer of the game, which she was in the Famous Five version of the Runaways. Cherry Bomb. Cherry Bomb. I think they're the ones who sung that. But she's going to be there. They're going to be selling that exclusive Jackie Fox, which I think is going to be very valuable, and I think people are going to go crazy for it. They're also told me they're going to have this big stage set up with this big rock concert, and it's going to be really cool. So if you're going to Gen Con, go to the Devir booth, check out Rock Hard 1977. Absolutely, it's a must buy. This is an absolute must buy, I think, for everyone who loves rock and roll. If you're not into the theme, you might not like the game, but I think the theme plays a lot into how good the game is, and the component quality is fantastic. So anyways, that's it for this review. Thank you guys for tuning in. Take you guys out later. Peace out.